If you're anything like me, when summer was coming, I used to go into a panic because in the summer, people wear much less clothes. And that would mean that there would be an expectation that if we're going to the pool or to the water park, I was going to put on a bathing suit. And even less than that, just people would question why I wouldn't be wearing shorts in the summer. When you are 70 plus pounds overweight, wearing a bathing suit or shorts feels like so much pressure. And maybe even it's more like you feel, or I felt like I was on display for all the wrong reasons. That would get me thinking about what's the fastest possible way that I could do to lose the weight that I was carrying. I want to talk about the fastest ways to shed some pounds. And I want to share with you how I actually lost 70 pounds in just 5 months. If you're meeting me for the first time, welcome to the road to health. All returning wellness warriors, I'm glad to have you back. There are 3 main methods to lose weight, but they're flawed. And if you don't know what the flaws are, you won't be able to correct them. And if you can't correct them, you're going to struggle like I did to lose weight. And I want you to stay to the end of the video because at the end, I'm going to tell you how to combine these 3 together to get the maximum effect and basically explain how I lost that 70 pounds in 5 months. The first one, of course, is dieting. The most important problems with dieting is that dieting is seen as temporary. You're not looking to eat this way forever. You're looking to eat this way until you regulate your weight. Because that's the case, the other problem with dieting is as soon as you reach your goal weight, now we're in the position of how do I maintain this? So I'm going back to my normal diet, but that's the diet that made me gain weight in the first place. So there's a lot of confusion for the average person who does a diet to lose weight about what they're supposed to do once they've achieved the weight loss that they were trying to achieve. The other issue that happens is that the goals of dieting tend to be short-sighted. We're only looking at getting from this heavy weight to this better weight. So we only realize that that's a problem when we're standing in that spot of, great, I look the way I'm supposed to look. And because most of us, when we get there, are very happy to be at our goal, happy to not need to diet anymore, we don't think about the fact that going back to those foods will cause our weight to rise. Another big problem with dieting is that your body will adjust to the foods you're eating. And what that means is it takes about 6 months of eating a certain way for your body to figure out, okay, this is how much energy is coming in, which means this is how much energy I can use to accomplish what I need to accomplish every day. Once that adjustment gets made, then your body will stop losing weight. And so in most diets, what happens is that once we get there to this point where, okay, my body has figured out that's how much calories I was eating, the only way to keep our weight loss going forward is to eat less food. Now, if you were lucky enough in the 6 months to lose all the weight you needed to lose, no problem. Your body is going to normalize there. However, then you would have to keep eating that way forever in order to maintain that loss, which is the other problem with dieting. Many people who diet report being hungry on their diet. So I've reduced my energy intake low enough for my body to lose weight, but this reduction meant that I was hungry all the time. And now that I've reached my goal weight, if I wanted to stay here, well, then I would need to keep eating this way, but that means now I need to be hungry forever, which is not realistic. If you didn't achieve the weight loss you were trying to achieve, we need to go down in calories again, which means I'm going to be even hungrier than I was doing the first step down. So there's a lot of unfortunate discomfort in dieting. There's some benefits to dieting, though, that are extremely good. For example, most diets allow you to keep eating the foods you love. You're just eating them in moderation. So instead of having a full 2 slices of pizza, if that's what you normally would have, maybe you have 1 slice. And so even though you're not fully satiated, like you might still be a little bit hungry, at least you got to eat your favorite foods. And the same thing goes for ice cream and cookies. On a typical diet where we're doing some kind of calorie restriction, you can still eat the foods that you love. Now, I will say that the average person doing a diet does tend to put junk food down because we know junk food isn't healthy for us. And so that can be a con because by putting those junk foods down, then I'm craving them while I'm dieting. And so there's a possibility that sometimes I don't stick to my diet. However, a positive is that when you are dieting, you're paying so much better attention to what you're eating that you're tending to eat better quality food because you're kind of paying attention, even though you can still eat normal stuff. Most people add some quality foods to their diet, and so therefore their diet tends to be better, especially if we put those junk foods down. And finally, the best part about dieting is that many of us start to learn what kind of foods could be healthy for us long term and maybe help us to stay at this better weight. And we're going to come back to that point in a little bit. Exercise is the next thing that you can do to help you quickly lose weight. I'm going to point out though that unless you're doing extreme exercise, and that would mean kind of working out like it's your job every day, several hours a day, it only contributes 20% to weight loss. We need to be careful if we're going to try to make that 20% be the biggest bulk of how our weight is coming down, because you'd have to do it like it's a job. But exercise is very helpful in weight loss because it allows you to gain strength. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more your body uses energy while you're doing your everyday stuff, which means that yes, you will burn more body fat, which is a plus for exercising. You're stronger and you're burning more energy. You will also improve your flexibility, which is good for overall ability to do activities, which again is going to make the exercise easier. And finally, it gives you cardiovascular strength. There's some negatives though when it comes to working out that we need to be careful about. You might struggle if you over-exercise, because if you hurt yourself, then that method of losing weight goes away. The other problem of exercise is that sometimes it's not as sustainable as we want it to be because it's not our priority when we have more important things like our jobs to take care of. Maybe we have families to take care of, and so we can't make it to the gym or to our whatever sport we're doing to get that workout in. So sometimes it's the first thing to go if something has to go. And so therefore, it's not, again, contributing to your weight loss because you're not doing it on a regular basis. Now, the third thing that we can do that is very, very effective in helping us to lose weight is fasting. I want to make the distinction between fasting and time-restricted eating, because time-restricted eating doesn't necessarily mean that you get into a fasted state. And a fasted state means that your body is no longer processing food. And that's important because when you're no longer processing food, then your body starts doing other processes like autophagy and repairing your body. In order for us to digest our food, it takes 6 to 8 hours. So that's how long it takes from the time that you've eaten until the time that your food that you've eaten is leaving your intestines, small intestines. We need to be careful in understanding that that time, so 6 to 8 hours, isn't enough for us to get into autophagy. Once the food reaches your colon, it takes approximately another 36 hours to pass through your colon. Now, I want us to understand that means that your body is still processing food. And if your body is still processing food, then we're not in a fasted state yet. Now, it might actually take your body 4 days to get into autophagy. So the science says 18 hours to 4 days. And from what I understand from listening to Dr. Berry, Dr. Bickman, and understanding how our body processes food, what conclusion I came to from their information is this. I think that because we eat a lot of vegetation, and depending on how much vegetation our meal is being comprised of, is giving us the variety of why sometimes it might take just a few hours, like 18 hours to get into autophagy, versus it taking some people 4 days. My guess, after learning from Dr. Berry, Dr. Bickman, about how quickly our body can process protein from animals versus how long it takes our body to process vegetation, so fruits and vegetables, I believe the reason it takes some of us so long to get into autophagy is because our body is stuck processing those fruits and vegetables. But then in that case, unfortunately, what that's saying to me is that when you are trying to do a fasting protocol, especially if your focus is weight loss and your focus is giving your body a rest from all the food that you're eating, Well, your body is only really truly going to be in that rest and fully doing autophagy when it's processed the food. And so there's a question mark in my mind if we're getting all the benefits that we would like to be getting from our fasting. So that's one of the, unfortunately, the difficulties of fasting. One of the negatives is that we don't really know at what point we start to get those positives. All we know is that the longer we fast for, the better chance we get those fasting positives. A big problem of fasting is that most people who are doing it on a standard diet and report being extremely hungry. And so that just makes it difficult to do long term. If this is the way that you're going to maintain your weight, maintain your good health, because the benefits of autophagy and building your healthy body and repairing things, if that's how you're going to do this, but then every time you fast, you have a hard time to stay on your fast, that is going to cause you to want to give up on fasting. Another problem that we have is that when you resume eating, because there's no problem to eat normal foods, it's just whatever you typically eat, the foods you eat cause you to put back the weight that you just took off, right? So we end up losing maybe 2 or 3 pounds. We put back 1 or 2. And depending on what we eat, we might put back all 3 or even 4. And so it does put us in the position where our weight loss might not be as steady as we want. And it might actually fluctuate quite a bit. A scary negative that I see of fasting is refeed syndrome, which a lot of people don't know about. Refeed syndrome happens because when you're not eating, and if you do it for a long enough period of time, for example, when I do 5-day fasts, I open myself up to the possibility of refeed syndrome because my body isn't taking in any food. When your body isn't taking in food, or when you make a big change to the food that your body's taking in, so a different kind of diet, your body adjusts to the new situation. And when you're taking in no food, your body will adjust very quickly. It needs to rebalance things. It needs to make sure that you're going to be okay. That means insulin production goes down. That means cortisol production very likely goes up. That means your hormones are being readjusted. Your hormones being readjusted means that the way that the electrolytes in your body are also being used differently, because we need different electrolytes depending on what processes are happening, which means that you are going to also deplete some of your electrolytes. All of this to say that when you start eating again and we get this flood of food, which will change your insulin level and cortisol and all the other hormones, and this flood of electrolytes that comes in, your body, which was managing one way, now has to switch over and manage a different way. And many people have trouble with that. So I really encourage you that if you fast for anything more than 2 days, there's a protocol. A lot of doctors, I would suggest that you go and look up a doctor talking about refeed syndrome and find a protocol that's slow, liquids first, and just teach your body how to get that food back so that you don't end up shocking your body and causing serious damage. The benefits of fasting are huge. First of all, the most obvious is if I'm not eating, my body will tap into the energy that I have on board, which is more than enough to fuel me for a very long time. As I'm sitting here in front of you today at my normal weight, I actually could go 2 to 3 months without eating food and be okay. Now, it would be a difficult 2 months, but it's doable. I would survive if I was somewhere where I just couldn't get my hands on food and all I could get was water. Your body has the ability, when you don't eat for a few days, to tap into the energy that's on you so that you can keep moving forward. And that means weight loss. The weight loss that you will experience because you're not eating anything and because your body is looking to you for all the fuel it needs for the day or two is a bit faster than it would be had you been eating food but just less of it. So you do experience a faster weight loss. And of course, the most important thing that happens in fasting is that your body is repairing things that needs to be repaired internally and building a healthier version of you for the future. I personally give about 1% credit to workouts when I talk about my weight loss because I don't work out. I do sports once a week in the winter. So we ski every Sunday, or at least when I was losing weight anyways, we were skiing every Sunday. In the summer, spring, and fall, what I do is sporadically do activities. So whether I'm going longboarding or bike riding or just like doing fun activities outside, mostly outside. And if it's raining, I don't do them. So over the spring, summer, and fall, I really do maybe one thing a week as well. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes every other week. It really depends on how busy I am with work and the weather outside. That's why I don't give a lot of my weight loss success credit over to exercise. It wasn't a big factor for me, especially knowing that exercise only contributes 20% to overall weight loss to begin with. So that being said, I credit most of my weight loss to the foods I was eating. So I needed to figure out what foods I could eat to lose weight. So what was causing me to gain weight? And what should I be eating to lose weight? And I actually did research to figure that out, Wellness Warrior. And when I did my research, I found that I needed to reduce the amount of carbohydrates in my food. And I didn't know what that meant. So I did more research and I found out that I needed to stop eating foods that were plant-based, that were high in carbohydrate, which were things like potatoes, carrots, so basically all root vegetables, tomatoes, and sweeter tasting vegetables like peppers. And as I looked at this information, I started to figure out that rice, wheat products, so pasta, a lot of the things that I was having in my meals were causing me to gain weight because they were carbohydrate based, so plant-based foods. At this point in time, I do not have a problem with eating vegetables. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I needed to learn how to choose vegetables that were lower in carbohydrates, so lower in sugar, so that my body could be healthy and be at a healthy weight. So I found those vegetables. I looked up and I found that cabbage was low in sugar. I found out that a lot of the leafy vegetables were low in sugar. I found out that salad was low in sugar, so low in carbohydrate, sugar, carbohydrate, two words for the same thing. So I started to collect vegetables that I could eat that were lower in sugar so that I could make healthy meals. I want to point out, I did have the option to still eat a potato and just have much less of it. My issue with doing that personally is that when I was eating meals, I wanted to feel satiated. I wanted to feel like I had eaten enough. And if I did a quarter of a potato so that I wouldn't go over my carb count for the day, I felt that I hadn't eaten enough and it was not satisfying to me. Satisfying is different than satiating. So even if I felt satiated, I didn't feel satisfied with my meal. So I didn't feel personally like I had eaten a quality meal. That has since changed, but at the time, that's what it was. By doing this process, what I learned was that certain foods were healthy for my body and were helping my body to build itself in a stronger way, in a way that I would be able to be at a healthy weight. Protein, so meat products, fish products, eggs, I learned were things that I could eat and that I didn't need to be afraid to eat that would help my body to be strong and healthy. So the whole way that I was looking at food shifted, and that helped me to figure out what to eat so that I could lose the weight that I was trying to lose. The next thing that I did after learning all this information about food was I committed to eating this way going forward into my future. I really honestly just felt like if this was healthy to do, I should be doing it all the time. I hadn't lost all the weight yet at that point, but what I had noticed is that my body was feeling better. About 3 months in, body aches and pains that I had had for some of them for 20 years, some of them for 10 years, some of them had recently come on me the year before, those aches and pains were gone. I want you to understand that my biggest weight loss strategy was food first. Fasting was involved, so let's talk about that. So I want you to understand, Wellness Warrior, going back to what I said earlier about the food that you're eating and what you're going to do when you get to your goal weight. That was the thing that I figured out as I was doing my research, that my body was going to adjust to whatever I was doing no matter what I did. Finding a way to eat properly, that I was feeling satiated, that kept the same amount of energy coming to my body so my body could do all the things it needed to do, was the most important strategy I was going to do to be successful in my weight loss. I wasn't diminishing the amount of calories coming in. All I was doing was changing where they were coming from so that my body could do what it needed to do. The calories that were coming in were no longer coming from sugar. The calories that my body was interacting with was coming from fat. Now, when we talk about fasting, you're going to see where the interesting thing is, I did end up fasting, but not because I chose to. So I didn't decide one day, oh, I'm going to fast to speed up this weight loss. What happened was eating a healthy keto diet, because when you eat less than 20 grams of carbs in a day, that's considered a keto diet. And that's what I understood from the doctors I researched I needed to do for my body to stop chasing sugar and keep me in this position where I would be fighting with myself about what I was eating. So when I actually, for a few months, ate a healthy keto diet, what happened was that breakfast wasn't interesting to me after a while. So I would wake up in the morning and not be hungry. And so I wouldn't have breakfast. And eventually lunch stopped being as interesting. So my lunch started getting pushed back, because I just wasn't hungry. Until finally, it didn't make sense to have lunch because supper was just around the corner. My body went into a place where now it's having a autophagy every day for a little while. And that opened the door that every second weekend, I was able to start actually fasting. And I started doing that every second weekend. I would do a 48-hour fast. So Wellness Warrior, I didn't force myself to fast. I wasn't looking to fast. All I did was follow my body telling me that you don't need breakfast right now, Violet. You don't need lunch right now. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, hey, I think I could actually fast. And I tried it one weekend and had no problem waiting till the next day, the same time I normally would have had supper, to have supper. That was interesting because I started doing that every other weekend going forward because I understood the benefit of fasting. Did it help my weight loss to speed up? I guess it did, because you lose more weight when you're fasting. And when I would eat after 48 hours, I would eat a normal meal. I wouldn't overeat. I wouldn't eat more than usual. I ate a normal amount. Wellness Wear, have you ever needed to fast, maybe for a medical appointment or religious reasons, and you struggled, like really struggled, to stick to the fast because you were doing a standard diet? I'm telling you that if you try to fast from a keto diet, it feels so much easier because your body knows how to dip in to the fat that's on board, because it's there, and fuel you because it has the ability to go inside, and autophagy means recycling, right, of your proteins. It can go in, grab some protein and use it to do whatever it needs to do. Grab some fat, use it to do whatever it needs to do, to build your body, to make you strong. The secret to why people have a better success rate at sticking to their keto diet long term, I personally have been doing keto for 5 years. Dr. Westman is 20 plus years. Dr. Barry is, I believe, going into his 10-year area. The reason that so many doctors are able to stick to their healthy diet is because once they realized how healthy it was, they stopped playing with these high sugar foods that pull you back into craving and take you off track. The other secret that Dr. Westman taught me was eating to satiation. When you stop eating till you're full, because that's not helping us, that's overeating. When we start eating to satiation till our body says, hey, I had enough for now. If you need more, you can get more. What we start to realize is that we eat to full because it feels a certain way, not because we needed to. And that small change of eating to satiation and letting my body tap into fat stores if it needed a bit more energy did help me a lot, because then I wasn't overeating fat either. Because if you overeat protein, fat, or sugar, you'll gain weight, because overeating is overeating. We eat until we're stuffed, right? And by doing that, we are overeating, because the truth is, we don't need to wait a week to get food. We're gonna have more food in a few hours. Fasting on keto is easy because we always have some fat on board. There's always energy that my body can step in and take. And so because my body's used to using fat for fuel, it will step in and take that fat. You watch to this point in the video because you want to lose weight and be healthy. Are you going to look at your diet differently? Are you going to find out what foods you're eating that are keeping you stuck? If you'd like to switch to keto, I have this great video right here that's going to help you to get started. It's hard to change something in your life if you don't know what you're doing. So click on the link and I'm going to walk you through it.